Good afternoon. My name is Freda Carroll, and I am proud to preside at the historical, yes, the 20th annual commemorative luncheon of the Mary E. Benjamin Educational Access Conference. Educational access is truly one of those paradigms because it has provided a forum or platform, if you will, for models that work in Arkansas. Dr. Benjamin, we salute you and the UAPB administration for inaugurating such a significant event. So in celebrating this history, we are also making it. Please join me in a Golden Lion round of applause for the 20th annual Mary E. Benjamin Educational Access Conference. I know you're excited to eat because that's what you're doing now. But at this moment, I would like to ask the Reverend Dr. Hazel Linton to come with meditation.
Father, we thank you for this new day, and we thank you for this opportunity to study, show ourselves approved unto you. Now, Lord, bless this food that we have consumed and are consuming for the nourishment of our bodies. Consecrate this food for our use as you consecrate us for your service. And we will forever give you the praise. Amen.
And I would like to introduce to you our moderator and our dear friend, Dr. George Hertz, Interim Dean for the graduate programs and continuing education. Dr. Hertz.
Today, we will continue with the models that work in the state of Arkansas. Today, we have three presenters who will give us information, who will share with us information in relationship to their programs that are working in Arkansas. First, we have Mr. Scott Shari, I got it right. Shari with the KIP program, and I understand they have two sites here in Arkansas, one in Helena, West Helena, and the other one is in Blytheville. So you'll get a chance to hear from him. Instead of hearing from Mr. Jerry Cox, you will hear from Ms. Melissa Savory. She is the director for the Education Alliance, better known as Homeschooling You All. Okay, so you'll know what her focus is. The other person is representing the public schools, and she comes from the State Department of Education, Dr. Tracy Tucker. She's the Director for Curriculum and Instruction, Division of Learning Services, Arkansas Department of Education. We want to hear from these individuals. They have about 15 minutes to do their presentation, and I hope that you will really be attentive so that at the end of all three presentations, we will have a question and answer period. Dr. Benjamin will monitor me and make sure that I stay on task and not run over time, because we do have some other elements here that we've got to take care of. So we will start now with Mrs.
Thank you so much. I'll try to raise this. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Scott Shirey. It really is an honor to be here and exciting to be on the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff campus. I've already run into two of our students, and they were glad to see me, so that means we must have done something right when they were at our schools. They did not run and hide. So there's my former director. Just to give you a little background about what KIP is. KIP stands for Knowledge is Power Program. It was started back in 1994 in a couple classrooms in Houston. And then in 1995, those teachers went and started a school in the Bronx and started a school and continued the school in Houston. They started with 5th graders, and about 4 years later, those students So they did a piece on 60 Minutes, and from there, the story sort of unfolds. Today, we serve over 40,000 students around the country. The map shows where all the KIPP schools are, and the thing that I love about it more than anything is you see LA, you see Dallas, you see Houston, you see New York, you see San Francisco, you see Denver, and then you see Helena, Arkansas, and Blytheville, Arkansas. And I'm really glad we're on the map. So my role here is the Executive Director of KIPP Delta Public Schools, which is part of the broader KIPP national community. So what ties us together as a community of schools, and what do we do? First, we're charter schools, which are public schools. We are all open enrollment, which means that any student who wants to attend our schools is able to, as long as we have room. There's no selection criteria or any of that. But we base ourselves off of the 5 pillars. The first pillar is simply high expectations. We believe that regardless of your income, regardless of your family structure, regardless of your race, regardless of the neighborhood in which you grew up, you can achieve, and you have a right to achieve. And so when we talk about high expectations, what does that mean? That's a catchphrase thrown around often in schools. Well, 2 hours of homework, we start there on a nightly basis. We'll talk about more time in a second. It's giving them challenging curriculum. It's pushing students to think. We heard the speakers this morning about getting kids to be critical thinkers. So true, real high expectations for our students. It's a choice and commitment. While we are an open enrollment public school, we do lottery, so anyone can sign up. We provide special education services. It is a choice that families and students make together. And we think that's powerful. We think it's important in education. Unfortunately, and still in our country today, if you have access to money and wealth, you have choice. You can choose the community in which you live. You can move to a community that may have a stronger school system, or you can choose a private or boarding school. If you're not a more time. Our school day goes 7:30 to 4. We do Saturday field lessons, and we do 3 weeks in the summer. Knowing that so many of our students come to us far behind, below grade level, we want to do everything we can to get them up to speed. And then beyond the 4 o'clock school day, we'll often tutor them late into the evening, knowing they don't have the systems at home. Even when there's the desire. So we'll do whatever it takes. We always say we'll do whatever it takes to help our students be successful. Power to lead. We believe strongly in empowering our school leaders to make decisions which are best for the students. For instance, if we have a schedule and the schedule is not working, the school leader has the full right. Where teachers are ineffective, we have to have the ability to remove them from the classroom. So our leaders do have full control over hiring and firing who's going to be in their building. And then the last pillar is focus on results. We'll talk a lot about the results. We're driven by sort of one mission, which is college. And that's the message we send to our students, and we hold ourselves accountable to that. We want our students to succeed. We believe in transparency. The data is very important to us. The 3 kids you see right there, Richard, Jaleesa, and Whitney, were all at a Vanderbilt summer program. Richard actually ended up getting a full scholarship to Vanderbilt, $50,000 a year. Jaleesa is at Vanderbilt as well on a full scholarship, and Whitney, the girl you can hardly see, I think ended up at Xavier, but don't quote me on that. It's Xavier or Tulane. It's one of the ones in New Orleans. So that gives you the sort of context about what KIPP is nationally, and I want to talk about who we are locally. We have, as I meant, we have 4 schools. The first one opened in 2002 in Helena, Arkansas, with 65 fifth graders. That's our oldest school, and today it serves over 300 students, grades 5 through 8. And then as we opened the middle school, we realized we need a place to send them when they finish 8th grade. So it made sense to open a high school. And that opened in 2006. You see Todd Dixon there teaching Jawan Washington. There was an engineering program. They actually ended up building an electric car and bringing it to Pensacola and racing it. It was a battery-powered car that ended up going like 60 miles on a small battery. And then we decided to open our elementary school in Helena. Today in Helena we're pre-K-12 actually. We added pre-K this year. And then in 2010 we opened a campus in Blytheville, which now serves grades 4 through 7. And you can see, I said 65, the chart says 69. We started with the 69 students, and today we're over 1,100 students, and that's been our growth trajectory over the last decade. In 2009, our juniors had the second highest 11th grade literacy scores in the state of Arkansas. The school that was higher than us was Arkansas School for Math, Science, and the Arts, which is a highly selective program, of course. So again, and I think one of the things we've done is just, unfortunately, there are still people in the state who believe that others in our state cannot learn or do not learn, and we're all aware of that. And so one of the challenges is really breaking down that myth and saying, look, kids from the Delta can achieve with the best of the best. And in 2010, our founding seniors had an average ACT of 22.7. The national average is 21. The state average is right around there. And then, so we were proud of that. In 2011, we had the great honor of being selected to have our choir perform at our national conference. So they got in front of 3,000 people in Nashville and belted out. There's Alexis Peels, who's actually one of our students from Forest City, who does that 1-hour bus ride twice a day so she can have an opportunity. And then in 2012, we were, based on U.S. News and World Report, our high school is ranked number 2 in the state based on AP results, the percent of our kids who take AP and the percent of kids who pass our AP exams. We were also one of 5 schools who were recognized as being exemplary by the Arkansas Department of Education. It says 6, but I think it was 5. I have to fix the slide. And that's Vanessa Williams. She's in our choir. And then right now, the thing that we really push, 87% of our first 3 graduating classes are currently persisting in college, whether it's 2 or 4 or enrolled in the military. I want to talk about this number a little bit. If you grow up in the bottom quartile of wealth, you have a 10% chance of graduating from college. If you grow up in the top quartile of wealth, you have an 82%. The economic gap in this country is real. If you grow up in Arkansas, of all Arkansas students, you have a 22% chance of graduating from college. That's a 6-year college graduation rate. So in Arkansas, if you attend your first year of college, you have a 22% chance of graduating within 6 years. We have to address those numbers. When we look at our data, we track it year by year. Our founding class, which are now juniors, we still have 43% who are enrolled in a 4-year college, plus another 17% in 2-year, plus 17% in the military, plus 4% who have graduated from a 2-year college. So 83% of our students are continuing to pursue. In 2012, you can see 75% of our students are at a 4-year college coming out of coming out of our high school. So we're incredibly proud of those numbers. And again, when you compare them to sort of the 22% or the 10% of low-income children who finish college in 6 years, we think we'll be at least quadruple that rate and push to do better from there. Because ultimately, we think the gap between those who grew up in the top quartile and those who grew up in the bottom quartile, well, it should be equal opportunity. And then as for the future, we're excited. We're just 4 through 7 in Blytheville. We would really love to end up being pre-K-12 there. We would love to open schools in other areas which have need. Little Rock. We'd love to come to Pine Bluff. Mississippi just passed their first charter law, so we're excited to see what happens there and looking at them. But we know that students deserve a choice and have a right to a choice. And then I will close with probably my favorite story of all time, which is David Bibbs, and I'm sure David wouldn't mind me talking about him. He came to us as a 5th grader, a special education student, and could barely read, didn't love school, came from sort of the worst neighborhoods in Helena, but he liked to do one thing, which was cook. And we continue to push him and challenge him. Today, he is finishing up his 2nd year at Johnson & Wales, which is one of the finest culinary institutions in the country. It's in Rhode Island on a full scholarship. And he just has overcome unbelievable odds and will probably be one of our greatest success stories, making more money than you and I putting on big fancy events. And so we're just so proud of him. And I couldn't get a slide last minute, but we have a number of alumni here, one of whom will present tomorrow. So we think the proof is there. And I think I stayed under my 15 minutes. Did I make the cut? I didn't get pushed off stage, but I'll be glad to answer. The advantage of going first is that you will forget the presentation by the time the other two go and have no questions for me. So I think I'm safe.
Well, my name is Melissa Savory. Well, I guess I should back up just a little bit and let you know, since I did not know very long, I have a cheat sheet. So you'll have to forgive me if I read my speech. My name is Melissa Savory. I'm the director of the Education Alliance, which is the state homeschool organization. I am also a homeschool parent. I have been homeschooling for a little over 20 years. So I think by the time we get to the question and answer, I should be able to help whatever question you have. Every educational choice has its pros and cons and is not for every student. At the Education Alliance, we believe that parents have the right to choose the method of education that they feel best suits their child's needs. Okay. Yeah, I'm shorter than him. I should have figured that out. Thank you. After all, who knows the student better than the parents? There are approximately 17,000 homeschool students in the state of Arkansas and approximately 2 million in the nation. This represents less than 2% of the student population, but homeschool numbers grow bigger and bigger each year. So why does homeschooling work so well for so many students? First of all, a homeschool has the lowest possible teacher-student ratio. I had to start with the obvious. Very few schools can afford such low ratios. If you think about it, a homeschool, the highest ratio will be the number of students that the parent has at home to homeschool. Second, a homeschool allows the parent-teacher to adapt the curriculum to best fit each student's learning style. Not only can the parent modify and adapt curriculum for special needs learners and gifted students, they can also modify the curriculum to teach it in a manner where the student learns best. Whether the student is a visual learner, auditory learner, kinesthetic learner, or tactile learner, the parent can identify their student's preferred learning style and maximize their educational experience by focusing on what benefits them most. Third, not only can the parent-teacher adapt the curriculum to the child's specific learning needs and learning style, but a homeschool also affords the parent-teacher the ability to focus on character development and on religious instruction if they so choose. Fourth, a homeschool provides a safe and orderly learning environment. Unfortunately, with the rise in school shootings, every single time there's a school shooting, we see a rise in homeschool numbers. And I guess it's just natural for parents to want to make sure that their children are safe. Fifth, the best learning environment is one where the teacher loves the student unconditionally and has the best interest of the child at the forefront of what they do. A homeschool provides that. After all, who loves the student more than mom and dad? Not that the parents don't love their students, but you just can't top mom and dad most of the time. In conclusion, I would like to make one other point highlighting not why a homeschool benefits the student, but why each homeschool benefits the state of Arkansas. There is no federal or state funding for a homeschool. Homeschool parents are responsible for purchasing their curriculum and providing the environment with which to do so. So, the state does not have to provide a building, administration, teachers, curriculum, or transportation. Not only does a homeschool provide the best learning environment for the student, it does so at no cost to the state. And that's pretty much all I could come up with this morning, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have when we get to that point.
My name is Tracy Tucker, and I'm with the Arkansas Department of Education. And just so you know, I happen to be one of those Delta kids who grew up and is now proud to reside back in the Delta. And so I am truly tickled to death to be here in Pine Bluff today. What I'm going to talk to you about today is a process or a journey, one could say, that we started at the Arkansas Department of Education with the Southern Regional Education Board and the Arkansas Department of Career Education, and it's referred to as the Literacy Design Collaborative. We started this work back in November of 2011, and we had 5 pilot schools, one of which I see in your program is going to be with you tomorrow, so I hope you'll take the chance to listen to what and learn about the work that they've been doing in their high school. But we began with 5 pilot schools, and we have now grown to about 40 schools that we're working with this school year, and about 32 satellite schools. And let me explain what I mean by that. We had about 40 schools who committed to the work that we were embarking on, and we learned as time rolled along that we had other schools who were hearing about the work that we wanted to do, and they did not want to sign up to be a full-fledged partner in the training yet, but they wanted to hear about it. They wanted to participate in some of the work and get their feet wet and prepare for this year, for this upcoming school year. So we have 32 schools that got a taste of the Literacy Design Collaborative, and then those schools with about 20 more or so have committed to the work for next year. So let's just talk. I'm just going to try to give you a little idea briefly about the Literacy Design Collaborative. One of the things that we have heard since we started our work around implementing the Common Core state standards is that it's great for you people to stand up there and tell me what it's all about, but what I really need is for you to show me what it looks like. And so I'm going to give you a little taste of and describe for you what Literacy Design Collaborative involves. And then I do have a video that I want to share with you to show you what Literacy Design Collaborative looks like when it's implemented in the classrooms. So as we all know, many of us feel that the implementation of the Common Core state standards give us an opportunity to rewrite and to rethink what education in America looks like. It's our opportunity to embrace a different type of quality education in our classrooms, and it's our opportunity to provide an education to our students that meets their needs and prepares them for the current demands of college and career. And that's what our Common Core state standards are all about. It's about helping us make our students college and career ready. It's encouraging them to be independent thinkers, have that strong content knowledge, whether it's in English language arts or science or social studies or in career and technical. It's about our students being able to communicate, and I always have to explain myself. It's about our students today being able to communicate with something other than their thumbs. Okay, we have to be able to talk, we have to be able to argue, we have to be able to reason, and we have to be able to use our communication skills at different times for different purposes. And so that is one of our goals with Common Core. Of course, we want our students to be able to comprehend and to understand topics. We want our students to be able to cite evidence or justify reasons for their thinking. And then we do want them to use technology, and we want them to be digitally competent, if you will. But then we also want them to understand that there are other ways of doing things, there are other ways of thinking, there are other ways of approaching learning and expressing themselves beyond just the technology. So we know with Common Core, one of the challenges that has arisen as a result of the implementation of Common Core revolves around this big idea of disciplinary literacy. And what is disciplinary literacy? If you've studied the standards, you know there's a huge section at the end of the standards, probably what I think is one of the most powerful sections of the standards that deals with disciplinary literacy. So when we think about disciplinary literacy, we think about preparing our students to read, write, and think in those content areas other than just English language arts, which is where the disciplinary literacy piece is found. We know in our state, we firmly believe, especially in our work around LDC, that it takes everyone having a shared responsibility to teach our students to be literate. We know that what it means to be literate in social studies is different than what it means to be literate in science. We know that there's also literacy that our students need to be pulling from those career and technical courses that they're engaged in. But we also know the value of our students reading the Iliad and the Odyssey and studying the Gettysburg Address and reading famous speeches from our history. And so when we begin to think about disciplinary literacy, we know we have to build that foundation that is rich for our students in content. And then we have to encourage those students and allow our students the opportunity to have arguments, to synthesize information, to follow descriptions of events, to understand a timeline, and to differentiate between primary and secondary sources and pull the evidence from those sources that's valuable to them. The Literacy Design Collaborative offers a fresh approach that allows us to do all of that. We are working with teachers of students in grades 9 and 10. When teachers commit to become a part of the work around the Literacy Design Collaborative, we ask for a team. And I will just tell you, as many of you in this room, I am quite sure, are in schools and you're working with teachers, you are probably experiencing this or have experienced the idea that sometimes getting teachers to come together and play as a team is a challenge. And that has certainly been a lesson that we've had to learn from our work with the Literacy Design Collaborative. Getting teachers to open the doors of their classrooms and talk to each other has been a huge task, but our teachers have found as they've done that, it's been hugely rewarding to them and to their students. So we're working on building that content, and then we're also making sure that we address the literacy needs that our students have. We want to make sure our students can read, write, and think like scientists, historians, technology specialists, artists, musicians. All of those areas are brought into this. So with LDC, we have 4 goals of LDC. We want to engage our students in reading, comprehending, analyzing, interpreting, and responding to complex texts. We want them to dig into those texts and really study it and understand it. We want to make sure that our assignments are aligned with Common Core and they promote collaboration among our students. We talked just a little bit before our luncheon session began today about this whole idea of student engagement. And in the video, I hope that you're going to see what student engagement can look like through our work with Literacy Design Collaborative. We want to help teachers personalize the learning so that every student has the option of mastering or the opportunity to master their learning. And we want to also ensure that our students are college and career ready, that all of our students are. We talked just a little bit about student engagement, and I'm going to go ahead and stop here and show the video. And that's something I kind of want you to keep an eye on as the video is showing. We've had a lot of discussion through our work with the Literacy Design Collaborative about what it means for a student to be engaged. And we found out real quick that what our students wanted in their classrooms to be engaged and what the teachers thought was true student engagement were 2 very different things. And I think you'll see some things in here that are exciting and encouraging in terms of engaging students in their learning. So I'm going to go ahead and start this. It's about a 7-minute video, and then I'll come back and wrap up.
Class? Yes. Here's what I'm going to do. I am going to ask that you argue in a debate fashion, which means this.
We're currently working on an argumentative task. And so we're taking a very controversial issue, which is global warming. And I'm exposing students to two different sides of a debate.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass out a couple articles. One is going to give you information that humans are causing global warming, okay? They're color-coded. Yellow, this article here simply explains to us, yeah, humans are causing global warming. It's taking place. This is what's going on, okay? I'm going to give you this article. Then I'm going to give you a green one. The green article simply says, no, in fact, humans aren't causing global warming, but it's due to other things, natural processes.
The Literacy Design Collaborative is a group of states, districts, and networks that are working hard at implementing the Common Core. And the Gates Foundation funded a group of them to begin trying to figure out how they really implement the literacy standards.
The focus of our work has been on how can we create a systemic approach as a strategy to address literacy instruction grades 6 through 12.
Franklin Roosevelt's administration's policies to combat the problems.
It's one that's intended to be flexible in the way in which schools, districts, and states can use it. So it allows for a lot of creative decision-making at the site level.
The tools are a framework for helping teachers think about that and how to design their curriculum around that. We can involve teachers in a conversation about literacy instruction and create a set of templates that they can use and include their own creativity in it, but know that we're still teaching to the Common Core.
What 3 things do we need to make sure we had in our lead paragraph? Chuck, what's one? Our thesis points.
At first glance, I think a lot of teachers sort of struggle to understand it.
I could not wrap my brain around how it was going to work in my classroom.
I think that it is a lot of work up front, and to be so intentional and find the right text, I think has been the most challenging part, but the payout has been definitely worth it. So we have our lead paragraph. Today we're going to go into the body paragraph.
Once when they get into it and they realize actually how simple the system is and what the kinds of shifts or the standards are asking them to make, they realize it's not really that difficult.
I can present the template task at the beginning and go, here's where we're going. You know, this is our overall objective. And everything we do ties into this. And so it made me more organized, it made me more structured, that we have that one big task.
In your Venn diagram, you're going to write down at least 4 facts for the proponents and 4 for against.
It's about making an argument for something or reading a set of texts and trying to figure out what the evidence in the text is making a claim for.
Moving then past the exposure to the text, now we give them some skills, like note-taking skills.
Is anybody denying the fact that the climate is increasingly getting warmer all over the world? Anybody denying it?
No.
So what could we put in the middle?
That the Earth is for a fact heating.
That the Earth is for a fact warming up. That kind of stuff we need to put in the middle.
Moving from note-taking onto starting a writing piece. Let's start small. Let's start with ideas. Let's plan.
I want you and your partner to put your heads together and think if you can add anything else to your Venn diagram.
It's more man-made because we're letting off more pollution than we are just sitting there standing by. We're letting off car exhaust and all that when we can take time on nice days and walk and ride our bikes.
Because of the fact that they have given us a hallmark, if you will, a way for us to really be able to think about what literacy means from the aspect of the thinking involved in being literate. That has really set apart the conversation because it's opened up the fact that it cannot be owned by any one area.
And this has also helped me actually teach them how to write a better essay, which I didn't actually have the training on before. I always left that up to the English teacher, and I see now that it's up to me too. I found a unit that I would have never originally thought I would use it in, but it was over electromagnetic radiation. And I decided students love cell phones. That's their whole life. I can totally do this. And I made up a
module called Our Cell Phone's Killing Us.
Always having a focus where they can step one, so they can baby step their way to the finished product, which is a writing piece.
In the earth, still here and extremely happy.
Students need to read, they need to speak, they need to listen, they need to be able to write. And if they can do those 4 things, then now they have the ability to think.
Natural supply of greenhouse gases. Now each step in turn is practicing thinking, but ultimately they all work together. So that final statement that you might make or I might make about that topic will be, in a sense, a much more informed, a much more sophisticated, a much more complex, but also a much clearer statement than we would have been able to make at the beginning.
I think it might be humans, because when we drive cars and let off gases and when we burn coal, all the gases come into the air and make one big cloud around the earth, which causes global warming.
Teachers are more vested because they have a voice, because decision-making around what they're going to teach and how they're going to teach it remains with them.
I feel comfortable now teaching what I'm teaching, this unit particularly. Always struggled with it in the past, grasping for things to do. How do I show this to kids more effectively? Something really that's going to be worth their time and my time.
Okay, if we were going to say that humans are causing global warming, what would you say?
And admire the work that he's doing. But if you noticed at the end of that video, it said that some of the partners were the New Tech Network. And so this work around the Literacy Design Collaborative, although it's being done in many states across our nation, it's also now being implemented into the training for those schools who are part of the New Tech Network. So as we grow to expand this with our professional development and learning opportunities that we're offering through the State Department, there are also those schools who will be participating in this through the New Tech Network training that they're receiving. And then also, ASCD has a program out there that engages Literacy Design Collaborative and the Mathematics Design Collaborative called EduCore, EDU Core, and it's on their website, so you can actually access some of the same materials that you saw referenced in this video through that website as well. So I just want to leave you with just a couple of comments about why we know that this model is working. Why is this being successful in our state? Why is it worth us spending our time and energy trying to implement in our schools? Well, what we're hearing from our teachers who are participating with us is that they are seeing higher levels of student engagement that they've seen in years. The students really like the backwards design, if you will, of the task and the modules that they're engaged in. They start out finding out from the get-go, this is the task that I'm going to be able to complete, or that I'm going to be asked to complete after I have my lessons, after I develop my skills, after I do my research, after I engage in my reading. And so they know from the beginning what the expectation is of them when this learning module is over. And so that is really being hugely successful. The kids are telling us they love seeing that from the get-go. Another thing that teachers are reporting back to us, we've done a lot of work around trying to capture some video, but what we're hearing and what we're seeing is that our students are being engaged in deeper and more directed discussions or conversations about their learning. And in many instances, it's the students themselves who are leading the discussions and the conversations, and the teacher is able just to step back and listen and facilitate, if you will. We know that we're spreading in schools. We have lots of schools who are asking for more information about this. So we're beginning to hear that it's working and it's changing the cultures of the schools in our state.
We're so happy that they have come to share with us their perspectives on educating students. And we know that each of these perspectives work and they are successful. Otherwise, they would not have been invited. So they have a very successful perspective, And we know that you do have questions that you would like to ask them. At this time, we're open for questions. Is that right?
I have a quick question because I see Dr. Lynch's hand and I want to acknowledge that. I'm going to ask the question that I asked the speaker, Ms. Savory, who is a full-time employee and she's a homeschooler. So I asked her, how is she able to do that? And she's homeschooled more than one of her children at the same time. So would you talk about that? Give us an answer, please.
No, I'd be happy to. I was blessed in the fact that I have a very supporting family. I got divorced, but I'm still very, very close to my ex-in-laws. And they helped, when my kids were younger, they helped teach. I had friends that helped teach. There's a local support group that has an academy that meets once a week. And so, you know, if I wanted them to go take a biology lab at the local co-op, I could do that. They're all now in high school, and high school is, most of the curriculums are geared towards independent learning. So all of their instruction is in their curriculum. So when I get home, I answer questions, I look at what they've done. Honestly, I do most of my grading on the weekends when I have more time because I do work a full-time job. And God bless me with very smart kids. So, but it takes a network, and if you've got that network, even as a single parent, it's still possible.
I think it's Mr. Shirey, is that correct? Yes, sir. Yeah. How do you choose the faculty that teaches at your schools?
Great question. We actually have the advantage of having a waiver on certification. So our simple criteria is we want to put the best people possible in front of our children. So we have a 43-year veteran who graduated from UAPB, and then we have first-year Teach for America teachers. So I think it's always about being flexible. The one thing that is consistent, we look at resume, we look at phone interview, but we will not hire someone unless they do a sample lesson in front of the kids. And in fact, and I didn't realize this, but we had a troop to teacher, and he was actually stationed in Okinawa, and we flew him in because we do not want to put kids in front of children. I mean, we do not want to put adults in front of children unless we see how they interact with them. So that's probably the most important criteria.
Considering the expense saving to the state of Arkansas, does the state of Arkansas Department of Education assist in homeschooling by providing materials that are already paid for and available? This is a question for both sides.
And the short answer is no. The parents are responsible for purchasing their own curriculum, and there's thousands out there, and the reason for that is it goes back to the learning style of the student and what best fits them. So there are thousands of curriculums out there, and you just have to pick the one that best suits your child, but who knows your child better than you?
You might want to expand on testing, how the homeschool kids are tested, the same as this state.
Okay. He was asking about testing of homeschool students. The state mandates testing in grades 3 through 9. There's 70-ish test sites across the state that the state provides. They send us a letter in the mail that says, here's a list of test sites, please pick one. If you would choose not to participate in one of the sites, you can purchase a test and do it yourself, arrange your own testing and send in the stuff. But that is kind of the short answer to the testing question. And then obviously as far as testing within the curriculum, it's built within the curriculums, just like any other curriculum.
Follow up? Yes, go ahead.
Oh, he wanted the other side.
He wanted the other side.
I received half my answer. I'm waiting for the other half.
Okay, so the other side of that answer is we have a homeschool unit. I guess it's a one-person unit at the department. And so that would be the person, Lisa, that Melissa's group would be in contact with the department. We do from time to time get questions from parents, particularly about clarification on maybe frameworks that are written into our curriculum frameworks. But the majority of the time, if they have questions, they don't typically come to our unit at the department. They would go through Lisa or probably through Melissa at your agency.
Are there any other questions? Let's appreciate them again, please.
That's all. It's now my privilege and pleasure to introduce to you Attorney Carla Martin, who will, Dean of the Business School, who will introduce our Chancellor.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today I am charged with a difficult task, introducing a man who is an educator and an administrator to a room full of educators and administrators. But no matter the title you bear, each of you has taken an oath for this distinguished and demanding profession. As an educator, it is our responsibility to impart knowledge to students who do and who do not have a desire to learn. As an administrator, it is our responsibility to balance student needs with faculty wants, parental desires, legislative mandates, all while maintaining a balanced budget. Well, our next speaker, Chancellor Calvin Johnson, has successfully managed all of those responsibilities and more. This natural-born leader has shared his gifts and talents on multiple levels and across the nation. He has served as a school board member, a legislator, a state commissioner, an advisory board member, a committee member, a consultant, a director of several grant-sponsored projects and P-12 partnership programs, and as a dean. With all those notable professional accomplishments, and too many others to list, he is most proud of being a wonderful husband, a loving father, a fishing pole-toting, hunting gun-carrying grandfather, and a super cool motorcycle-riding great-grandfather. Although he is armed with a Bachelor of Science degree in Agriculture Education from the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, formerly Arkansas A&M College, a master's degree in Counselor Education from the University of Central Arkansas, formerly State College of Arkansas, and a PhD degree in Adult Education and Public School Administration from Kansas State University, this academician has recently earned an honorary degree. This degree is in civil engineering, and it was merited because of his work with bridges. Over the past year, he has worked to bridge the gap between our yesterday and our tomorrow. He has worked diligently to design, or better yet, to be the bridge that carries us from our rich history to our promising future. As travelers on Dr. Johnson's bridge, we don't worry about the bridge swaying because we know that he has reinforced our structure to provide stability to this institution. For the next few minutes, I want you to travel with me along Dr. Johnson's bridge. While on this bridge, this educator turned administrator turned civil engineer will share with us lessons learned on models that work here in the great state of Arkansas. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our Chancellor, Dr. Calvin Johnson.
And thank you, Dean Martin, for those very kind words. You know, if I didn't know better, I would think that you were getting ready to hear a speech. But just relax, because you're not, so you can sit back and enjoy the rain. I thought I was asked, Dr. Hertz, to be a part of that panel that just left him up here. And I was to make some comments and reflections on what I heard. So I feel Dr. Benjamin sort of like that was a
revival at a country church that I heard about. There was several ministers on the stage and in the pulpit, and one minister was not paying very much attention, so his friend who was presiding said, well, I'll make sure I get him. He said, now we will hear the closing comments and remarks by Reverend so-and-so. So Reverend so-and-so had not been listening, so he got up and looked around. He said, well, one thing I know for sure, you've heard enough to save the world if you only listen and do what they said. So I say to you about these presenters that you just listened to, you've heard enough to educate all of Arkansas if we only use the models that they shared with us. Now, for just a few minutes, let me talk about some things that I heard and some things that I want to share with you. And the very first thing is that we all know that the education of all children, grades 1 through 12, is the responsibility of the state of Arkansas. So, in recent years, we have found that there are other ways of educating children other than sending them all to what we call public schools. Most of us in here are products of public schools. And of course, we continue to appreciate public schools. But now we have learned to appreciate what's going on in some other areas where education is also effective. I always say regarding homeschooling, if my friend Jim Bob Douglas can successfully educate 18 or 19 children in one house, anything can be done. Jim and his wife, and I think they have one grandchild or two. But the bottom line is, we know more now about the processes than we have in the past. You just listened to a presentation about charter schools, one about homeschools, and also about public schools. Might I also say that in the presentation by Scott in terms of the KIPP Public School over at Helena, we all appreciate what they are doing. I've been there, I was there early on, not long after they got started, and I say they're doing a wonderful job. The success, we cannot argue with the success that's taking place in those kinds of schools, and especially the KIPP schools. And there are many others that are doing a great job. Remember what Scott said. He said that we are focused on results. And that's the same we can say for the other schools. That's the same for public schools. Also, he said we have high expectations. And that's what we should have. Wherever education is taking place, we should have high expectations for our children. That's, we cannot accept anything less than that. And we also heard from Ms. Savely talking about the homeschools. Well, early on, I had my own ideas about homeschooling and the qualifications of the instructors and all those kinds of things. But you need to know that the process of homeschooling is very highly organized. They have curriculums, they have assessments, and then the state has not given up that responsibility to the parent. So the state requires certain assessments and certain things that students must demonstrate before they can move on to the next level. And in the public schools, we know about all the kinds of things that we heard about from Dr. Tucker. We know about the Common Core. We know about, we go back to smart choice and all of those kinds of things that we have, that we've heard and supported over the years. We know that the majority of the children in the state of Arkansas are being educated in public schools. We know about public school teachers. We hear more about teachers for some reason than we do anything else in the public schools. But the bottom line is the schools, via the school board, the state charter, give that responsibility to the school boards hire superintendents hire principals, and the principal hire teachers, and therefore we attempt to get the job done. I must say, and you've seen the data. The data show that public schools in Arkansas are doing better than they have ever before. So the achievement is going up, test scores are going up, attendance is improving, retention is improving. So all of those kinds of things are beginning to happen, and we have to be proud about that. One thing that we heard about this morning We heard about the partnerships and the opportunities to work with other agencies. We know that we do not have all of the information in one building. So we're challenged to reach out and to partner with others. That's why you see so many partners why you've seen so many partners over the years as a part of this conference, because we believe that partners bring something different to the table, something in addition to what we already know, and we can certainly appreciate that. One thing that we need to keep in mind, there are some game changers that we're faced with. Now, we talked about public school, we talked about charters, we talked about homeschooling. We did not say much about virtual schools. We have not said much about schools online. Those schools are beginning to take on, and they are growing. That means that we have students that will probably never set foot in a school door. They will get all of theirs via computer and technology and those kinds of things. And you cannot deny the results because they are having success. So as those things continue to develop, I think our job is to embrace those kinds of things, know about them, and be prepared to do whatever is needed in terms of what we can do from the higher education point of view. We know that assessment will continue to be a high priority in all of the programs. We know that technology will be a high priority, and we also know that partnerships will help to facilitate better programs. Now, that's what's happening in the P-12 schools. Now, what about when they get to colleges and universities? I think, and I shared with you this morning, Dr. Benjamin called them challenges, and that's very well, because I think now we're challenged to be ready when those students get to us. So we must have programs in place, and the best way we can do that is to partner with our friends in the P-12 schools to make sure that that transition from 10th grade to 11th grade to 12th grade and the first year in a 4-year school or in a 2-year school had provided those students with the knowledge and the expertise they need so that they won't hit a big bump when they get ready to leave high school. For too long, we've prepared students to graduate, not to continue their education. So I think as we continue to think about the best way to model, the best way to serve our students, we need to start thinking outside of the box. Nobody can say we have the only best idea, because in each one of the programs that I mentioned, we have the good, we have the bad, and we have the ugly. Our job is to make sure that our students are exposed to more of the good program so that they can continue their education. And listening to business and industry, Ms. Jones, they tell us that they want people that can read, write, do arithmetic, and think critically. If our students could do that, a lot of the things that we hear about Arkansas and the lack of achievement would go away. If they could just read, write, do arithmetic, and think critically. Business say that's where they have problems. They can't find students that can read and write. So our challenge is to make sure that we address those issues. And in closing, a quote that I saw that I like, and that is that if we change the way we see things, the things we see will change. Thank you.
I'd like to thank both Dr. Johnson and Attorney Martin for their wonderful remarks. Thank you for your engaged attention. Appreciate it.